Skarloey storms through. In the summer, the high hills of Sodor are Skarloey's favourite place. There are flowers and forests and fields full of sheep and farmers who wave as Skarloey chuffs by. But in the winter, it's very different in the hills. There is rain and wind, and sometimes there are bad storms. One rainy day, Skarloey was delivering trucks of slate. He saw a farmer up ahead by the tracks. "There's an emergency," he shouted. "A big storm is coming. We have to get the sheep down from the hills. We need the engines to help." Skarloey wanted to help, so he puffed quickly away to the depot. He had to tell the other engines that there was an emergency. When Skarloey arrived at the depot, his friends Reneus and Peter Sam were there. So was the Thin Controller. Skarloey told him about the storm. "First, you must collect the trucks and take them to the top of the hill," he said. "Then pick up the sheep and bring them safely down the hill to the farmers." "Yes, sir," peeped Reneus and Peter Sam. They couldn't wait to get started. As Skarloey was being uncoupled from the slate trucks, there was a flash of lightning and a roar of thunder. Skarloey was scared of the thunder and lightning, but he didn't want to tell his friends. He didn't want to look silly. Reneus and Peter Sam blew their whistles bravely as they puffed off to collect their trucks. Skarloey tooted his whistle as hard as he could, but it didn't sound very brave at all. The three little engines arrived at the bottom of the hill with their trucks. Then there was an even louder roar of thunder. Skarloey's wheels wobbled. He was very frightened. "Here I go," puffed Reneus, and bravely he chuffed up the hill. "I'm coming too," tooted Peter Sam, and he puffed off bravely after his friend. Skarloey watched his friends disappear into the storm. He didn't feel as brave as the other engines. "I'm too scared to go up the hill with them," Skarloey puffed quietly, and with a sad puff of steam, Skarloey reversed down a siding and hid. Skarloey waited. He hoped no one would see he wasn't helping. At last Reneus and Peter Sam came down the hill. Their wagons were full of sheep. Skarloey watched the farmers unload the sheep. Then Peter, Sam and Reneus puffed back up the hill into the storm. They were being very brave. Skarloey felt bad. He wanted to help, but he was too scared. Peter, Sam and Reneus worked very hard. They puffed up and down the hill, bringing sheep safely to the farmers. Then there was trouble. Peter, Sam and Reneus had puffed up and down so many times they both ran out of coal. "There are still more sheep on the hill," wheezed Reneus sadly. "What are we going to do?" chuffed Peter Sam. Skarloey looked at his two friends. They were very tired and very sad. Then he looked at the farmers. They were worried about the sheep. "If a big engine like me is frightened of thunder, the little sheep must be very scared," Skarloey chuffed to himself. "I wanted to help the sheep, I wanted to help the farmers, and I wanted to help my friends. But I haven't helped any of them. I've let them all down." He felt terrible. Skarloey puffed slowly out of his hiding place. Reneus and Peter Sam were pleased to see him. "Did you collect lots of sheep?" Peter Sam asked. "We didn't see you," puffed Reneus. Skarloey sadly told them what had happened. I was too scared of the thunder and lightning to go up the hill with you, he wished, so I hid and I watched you working. Because of me there are still sheep on the hill, so now I'm going up to collect them, he chuffed. There was another flash of lightning and a roar of thunder, but Skarloey didn't notice. He pumped his pistons and puffed off bravely up the hill. The lightning flashed around Skarloey, and the thunder roared. But Skarloey wasn't scared. All he thought about was collecting the sheep and bringing them safely down the hill. Skarloey arrived at the top of the hill. The farmer was waiting. He was very pleased to see Skarloey. The sheep were quickly loaded into the trucks, and Skarloey set off down the hill. It was very hard work, but Skarloey didn't give up. He chuffed up and down the hill until he had collected all the sheep. Skarloey felt very happy. I'm braver than I thought, he wished, and he puffed proudly down the hill for the last time. Rheneas and Peter Sam were waiting for Skarloey at the bottom of the hill. Well done, they tooted. They were very happy to see him and proud of their friend. 3 cheers for Skarloey, the farmers cheered. Skarloey smiled. I didn't think I could do it, but I could. The lightning still flashed and the thunder still roared, but Skarloey was the happiest engine on Sodor.